Okay, we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to My Spiritual Butterfly. My name is Gwen. I'm a Reiki master teacher and a transformational life coach. I'm joined tonight again by the lovely Jae from the Light Tree. Hi, Jae. So Jae is an embodiment, let me get this right, embodiment practitioner and a women's circle facilitator. Hi, Jae.
Hi, Gwen. Hi.
Lovely to have you here tonight.
On again.
Yes, it was just so nice last time just to have that conversation. It always really flows with you. So it's really good to kind of bring you on again tonight to talk about overcoming fear and the different aspects of that. But I just thought initially it would be great just to find out a little bit more about what you do, because I'm saying you are an embodiment practitioner, and maybe some people out there don't understand what that is, what that entails. Even the women's circle aspects, people may be new to that. So yeah, it'd be great if you can just tell us a little bit more about how you serve and what those offerings are.
Yeah, so I'll try and keep it concise.
Okay.
But an embodiment practitioner really is quite what it says on the tin. So we are approaching ourselves as a body and mind. Okay. And why that's important is because often in society we've been encouraged to focus very much on the mind, and almost as the mind and the body are separate, and that the body is just like a thing that's carrying us and doesn't hold intelligence or information for us. And so, yeah, it's about integrating, you know, our intelligence that we hold in our mind, our intelligence that we hold in our body, and also how that kind of relates to our surroundings as well, because we are connected. So there's intelligence that we can tune into as well that are in the field, if you like. So we're integrating all of that, and learning how to receive that information and to be with that information more. And that can be things like, you know, we get a sense, for example, hunger. Hunger is body information. Our temperature, if we feel a bit cold, that's our body giving us information. We feel a bit tired, that's our body giving us information. So we have those very kind of functional ways of receiving information. But there's also this like deeper intelligence, maybe when we connect with people in certain ways, like when there's that just natural connection, rapport, or you know, we have a sense of something. People might say, oh, something's off. I feel something's off, but we haven't been given necessarily the language to really sense into what the offness is. So I'd be, as an embodiment practitioner, really curious about what is the offness. You know, let's explore, let's get into what that might be and feel into it more. So that's the practitioner. Embodiment practitioner, which I'll try and keep concise. Well, hopefully that was fairly concise. Yeah. And then women's circle facilitator is really that again. It's like bringing women together in a space that is, that is non-fixing or non-judgmental, a space where people can feel more safety, or women can feel more safety to kind of show up and share authentically, and and see what emerges from that. So yeah, that's what I would describe it.
I love it. So yeah, as you say, very similar in terms of exploring what's coming up for them beyond just the mental sort of capacity and translation of what's happening, but actually feeling into everything.
Yes.
Lovely.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So that definitely lends well to what we're talking about tonight, which is overcoming fear. And I'm sure we'll be circling back to that in terms of how we can, you know, traverse fear and overcome fear. But yeah, what I wanted to look at tonight was just in terms of the origins, not the origins, but the original purpose and function of fear initially, exploring that for a little bit and seeing how, whether that still works for us today, you know, whether it still has a place, and how we're kind of interpreting that in terms of our environment, our body, our emotions, everything sort of around that. And then moving into just the different views of fear, but also how we can start to make peace with fear, overcome fear, find the courage to move through fear. I know you're really keen to talk about the courage aspect as well. And then kind of sharing some things that work for us in that mix as well, things we can use in the moment regarding fear, and things that we can use before that moment arrives, so we can sort of build our resilience so that people watching this can walk away with some tangible things that they can look at or do, so that they can actually live the life that they want to live, where they can be moving forward in the way they want to move forward, achieving the dreams they want to achieve. And like I said in the description, kind of not live small anymore if that's not what they want to do, kind of do the things that are really calling them. So yeah, so maybe if we start with, as I said, the original purpose of fear, in terms of our biology and you know, that real original sort of function, basic function of fear. Did you want to start that conversation from there?
Yeah, I want to start by kind of saying fear is not bad. You know, I think we might have adopted in society, or you know, through our experiences, an idea that fear's not a good thing. And I kind of want to move away from what is good and bad. You know, it's not about good or bad. It's, you know, it has a place, it has a role, and our bodies, like our nervous systems, our biological system is you know, it cues and it searches for places of safety and places of danger. And that's what's kept us here. That's why, you know, thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of years, here we are. And there would have been a time where those cues of safety and danger would be about, as we, you know, when we initially spoke about this, you know, there's an animal over there that I know from experience is quite dangerous, and actually I need to sense that quite early and quite quickly and be able to respond to that. And so our nervous system is highly attuned to sense into these, you know, to these what we might deem to be danger or what we might deem to be safe. And so completely, like, thank you. No, you know, I kind of feel like thank you for having our back in that way. You know, it's kept us here. So that's what I would say is the fundamental role. But of course, we not all of us are living in places where we're in the, you know, in the environment where there's going to be a dangerous animal coming down the street. Well, not always. And so then what do we tune into as fear, as danger or safety? How do we kind of sense into those things now? And what actually becomes a threat or a kind of or a welcoming?
Yeah. I think it's important for us to also acknowledge that it is a base, a basal kind of put in an emotion or reaction, as you say, to understanding where the danger is, where the safety is. I love that. But we are hardwired to be on high alert for danger predominantly. And that's for a purpose, for our survival. And fear is really there to get us to react to something that potentially can cause pain or death. So, what's happening, what always interests me about fear initially is that bodily reaction to this danger designed to kind of get us out of that, the fight or flight or flee, fight or hide kind of response. But the big physiological thing that's happening in our body that was designed, as said, to keep us safe, but is now being triggered by other things that maybe aren't out there, but we're getting that reaction. We're getting the heart rate speeding up, the blood pressure kind of rising, the sweating. We're getting that really focused view of everything so we can find out where that animal is, and everything that's going on in our body that's taking all the energy from, our digestive system, our immune system, because those things in that time of danger just aren't as important as keeping you alive as a whole person. And so, definitely the original purpose, as you said, was to just be aware of what was going on around us, be on high alert when we need to move away from something. But as you said, we're not now living in those times, although people do. There are people who are living in situations that are very dangerous still for them in terms of their safety. But there are also a lot of us who aren't living in that kind of threat of danger on a daily basis almost. And a lot of it is coming from another aspect in terms of what we think about something or what we are making something mean, which kind of comes back to your point of then having to feel your way through that a little bit. So,
Yeah, just as you were saying that, what pinged up in my mind was, it's perception and what we are perceiving now to be safe or dangerous. And so something that might be dangerous could be a new situation. I've never done this before. I'm not sure how it's going to go. I'm not sure what's going to happen. And that could feel dangerous. And then your body would naturally react to that, because the body doesn't really discern, it just receives the information and responds. It needs to happen quite quick. It needs to happen quite quickly, as you said. There's a threat. All these things happen before we can even think about it. And then maybe our voice becomes a bit cracked, or, we get the flutters in our belly. We start to get these sensations and some fear arises. And often we don't understand why or where it's coming from. And we might feel like some shame come up, or some frustration around it come up, because we're not understanding where these kind of feelings of fear might be arriving from. And I was just thinking, when does fear kind of come up for me? What are the moments or the situations that comes up? And and if anybody wants to share their moments as well when they notice fear, that would be really interesting as well to hear. But like a challenging conversation, a conversation that you might not want to have.
Mm-hmm.
And the fear might come in, and as you say, then like you get very focused on something, and that might not give space for more accepting, expansive thoughts, right? So you get very focused in on something, and then you go into that conversation ready for, you know, something not good to happen, or something, you know, kind of battle. And so, yeah, there could be those moments, or speaking to big groups, or I'm trying to think of other ones. Like we
talked about having to make a speech, do a presentation at work, things like that. That kind of, and even going into, like you said, new situations where there's a group of people you don't know, and you're there for the first time, and then all these things come up, but they're not being triggered by danger, someone's going to hurt me, but it's more about what are they going to think of me? Are they going to like me? Am I going to be accepted? What if they don't like me? So there's this fear of, you know, failure, fear of not being loved around that. So it becomes different to the primary role of fear, if that makes sense. Excuse me, got a little cough. But yeah, so we're kind of perceiving this whole situation as dangerous, unfamiliar, unknown, and then we get this huge reaction in the body that sometimes doesn't help us. And I think we talked about this earlier, and I talked about maybe the role of fear, the role it plays now in our kind of modern world, in the Western world particularly, where there isn't this imminent kind of danger to life or threat to life. And it's all kind of happening from what we're thinking and perceiving. Is fear now kind of maladaptive? Is it most of the time not serving us, firing and triggering this big reaction in our body for the wrong reasons?
Yeah, and I kind of went, oh, maladaptive.
Grabbing my water. Yeah, I remember you had some thoughts on that. So yeah.
Yeah, just in my body went, because going back to what I said at the beginning, like not shaming fear, or not, you know, I think there's something about fear coming up because it comes up for a reason. It doesn't appear for no reason, and that could be something to do with, you know, a kind of early on experience that we've had, and now this situation that we're in, or what we're experiencing, is bringing up those same feelings. It's bringing up that same pattern, and our body is reacting to that. You know, quite, you know, very valid, very valid, and could be useful, you know, could be useful in that situation. So I think it's about beginning to bring some kind of awareness and discernment. I mean, I always come back to this, whatever I speak about. It's how can we, first of all, I think there's an acceptance that fear is here. We are not going to suddenly get rid of fear. It's something, it's an emotion that we live with, just as joy or love or all the other spectrum of emotions. So I want to just say that, like, let's accept fear is part of being human, a part of our human experience. And then, okay, so now what do we do with that? Because sometimes denying or not wanting fear at all doesn't allow us then to work with it. And when it arises or emerges in us, and we can see that this is not, you know, not in any imminent danger, physical or even emotional danger necessarily, because that is the other thing. Sometimes the emotional danger is very real, but less easy to identify sometimes. But as we start to become more aware and familiar and intimate with ourselves, and we can begin to discern, actually, okay, I can feel there's some fear here, and it can become an inquiry as to what is the source, or where is this emerging from, rather than just trying to dismiss it or push it away, which in my experience, both in my own journey and working with other people, it doesn't have the desired effect, because it kind of tends to maybe pop up in other places too. So yeah, I'm interested to hear what you.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I guess it's like we're saying, the purpose of fear for most of us now is to get that information, is to use it as a not so much okay, I'm not going to do this, but it's okay, what is coming up? Why? Is there information here? Is there a cycle I need to break? Is there, so rather than it being maladaptive, it's still serving a purpose to get us to be on high alert for what we're feeling, if that makes sense. So rather than being on high alert for what's out there, but in a more introspective way, to say, okay, you need to be aware that this is a pattern for you, this is a cycle for you, you're always doing this, you're always running away, or you're always making it seem worse than it is, or whatever. So it gives us that time, as you said, after that point of compassion initially, but just to kind of sit with it and see what's behind it. So in that sense, it's still serving a purpose. Otherwise we'd never kind of get those lessons or that new understanding about something, and that growth, I guess, as a result. So it does make sense.
And we wouldn't ever want fear to go away, because there'll be a time when we need to, we do live in a world where this is something that you will need. So if we were trying to fully get rid of it, then how would we, be able to make those choices around safety and danger? We still need that. And as I said, there's physical danger and emotional, there's emotional things going on, and we need to know when we need to put up a boundary, or when we need to remove ourselves from a situation as well. Like, I'm thinking about scrolling. We've all done it, scrolling on the old, socials.
Gram, or YouTube, even YouTube Shorts and everything.
And sometimes there's a moment we need, we could step away. There might be something activating that we see, or something that just might, activate something within us, or trigger something within us. And so we need to know that kind of discernment of what's good for us, what's not so good for us. And fear can help with that. But then it's when fear comes up and it doesn't necessarily have a role to play. Like, it comes, it pops up and wants to get involved, and you haven't invited it, and it doesn't have a role. So then what do we do with fear in those situations?
That's interesting as well. I mean, with what was coming up there as well was the fact that, the other role is to prepare you, I guess, right? So when you are about to do something new, different, that initial fear, which we may jot down the scale a little bit as anxiety or nerves, makes you prepare. So if you have got something like a speech at work, you'll do the research, you'll write that down, you'll rehearse, you won't just walk into that. It makes you dot the I's and cross the T's. So there's that aspect. But as you said, there's also very real dangers out there, or things that kind of aren't good for us or safe for us. I'm just thinking about one of my students who I was teaching this weekend, teaching Reiki 1. We go for the Reiki principles, and one of the principles is do not worry, which is something that we all kind of do and sometimes overdo for no reason, something that hasn't happened out there. But one of the students talked about the fact that she doesn't live in a very good area, a very safe area. She has children that she's worried about, some really dodgy characters around her. She needs that fear to keep everybody safe. She needs to have that awareness, the street smarts, the kind of, she needs that. It serves a very real purpose for her. So rather than her trying to, look on the positive side or reframe it or whatever, it's a very real danger for her in her life. So yeah, I think just going back to that kind of understanding that, as you said, we have to make a choice or discernment, or just have that pause to say, well, am I really in danger? Is there a threat to my life or pain or something that really is going to make me uncomfortable? Or is it just a fear that's in my head and there's no danger out there, and it's just because I'm hitting this threshold? Is it just that kind of fear that I'm feeling?
I love it. That threshold, and it's coming back to me now, that like this fear of kind of making a wrong decision, or like moving in the wrong direction, or doing something wrong. There can be this fear around that, which then stops us from actually taking a decision. So we just kind of avoid hitting those thresholds. And sometimes those thresholds are the ones we need to kind of push up against, because as you said earlier, that's where there can be some growth there. And, like moving towards more fulfillment, or more joy, or maybe even more safety, more belonging. There's some other things on the side of that threshold, and we're always fearful of the kind of, and I want to say, like, the potential activating feelings that we can have around those real feelings that we can have. Then we might never see what's on the other side of that. And what's coming up now is, and something that's quite present for me, because I'm about to do a session with a group next week on this, is about resourcing, and how are we resourcing ourselves and giving ourselves the tools to kind of feel into the fear, explore it. And we talked about working with other people with that, but then also tools that help us be with the fear, but not let the fear hold us back when it doesn't have a role to play. And we'll probably speak about that a bit later on, a bit more. But that's just, as you were speaking, that came up.
Yeah, it is important, if you want to, I guess, as you say, conquer your fears and not let it hold you back. There needs to be a little bit of willingness to as you say, lean into it and decide what you need. I mean, we spoke earlier about courage as well, to kind of move through that. So when you have made that decision that, okay, this isn't a danger to me, but there's still something stopping me from moving forward. So logically, we know we're not going to die, we're not going to get hurt. So what is stopping me from having this thing that I want so much on the other side of that threshold? What's stopping me from just doing it? Other people are doing it, that person's doing it. Why can't I just find that courage? Or what's stopping me So yeah, in terms of the courage aspect, which I think you mentioned when we talked offline before, was different to bravery. Do you want to speak a little bit more about courage in terms of navigating it?
Yeah, it's interesting because been having a few conversations about courage and bravery and what is courage, and this kind of distinction that maybe bravery is like a bit more outer, or for me has a bit more of an outer energy, like, you know, there's something out there that I need to kind of conquer or be brave for. And there's something about courage that feels like it comes from somewhere within. And this is my definition. I don't know if this exists anyway, but this is just how it feels within my body, that courage is like the kind of curiosity that there is something else, and the willingness to explore that, the willingness to kind of risk something for something else, for something more, for something that feels important to me. I might not know what it is. There's this, you know, but there's this sense, there's a sense that there's something else out there, and I'm willing to move towards it, even if I hit that threshold and it feels uncomfortable and I'm not sure what to do with it. The thing that I'm reaching for or moving towards feels more important than maybe me feeling safe, or me feeling or risking maybe belonging, risking something for that moreness, whatever the moreness is.
I do get that. I think when I first asked you, you know, difference between courage and bravery, I didn't see a difference, but as you started talking about it, I can feel that difference now. It does resonate, and the bravery feels more like bravado, feels more like putting on, you know, a face or a mask that isn't really what you're feeling, but you're doing it regardless. So a bit of a pushing and forcing, and maybe a little bit of inauthenticity, but you're going to get there. Whereas the courage feels, as you say, it does feel a little bit more authentic, more vulnerable, but you're still moving forward. And it's something I think you can then sustain, because it's just you, it's you, as opposed to the bravado, which is, in the end, you'll find you might crumble under that pressure to keep being brave. That makes sense.
And as you're saying that, like, courage feels like it might kind of interact with you, like in the way that you're feeling, or what's coming up at the time. It like kind of, it relates to what you're feeling at the time. As you were saying, you know, there's a bit of, maybe a bit of kindness. Like, it doesn't always have, courage doesn't need to be a big gesture or a big statement. It could just be, I'm going to go to that meeting that I feel nervous about, and I might not even speak, but just being there, courageous to me. And it's almost like courage can grow with you. There's some kindness there, and not so much expectation.
I like that. There's an acceptance with that, isn't there? I like it. There's an acceptance. You're moving forward, and you're just almost surrendering that moment, showing up and seeing what comes up. I like that.
And that's the curiosity. Like, could there be something else? Like, what would happen if I just went to the meeting and sat in the meeting? even though I'm feeling nervous about maybe being seen, or like, what would that be like? And then I suppose, like, I'm getting kind of drawn into like trust as well. You know, there's a level of kind of how much can I trust myself or other people, or, you know, the situation, that I will be okay. Because that's ultimately comes back to, you know, what the fear is protecting us from, is that we might not be okay.
And that's a big aspect of fear, right? It's fear of the unknown. You know, fear, they say your subconscious likes to know it wants to protect you. So it wants to know what's happening next, or have we been in this situation before? Okay, it feels like it. Well, we know it's going to be safe because we've done it before. We know there may be danger because we've done it before. And so a lot of our fears come from that fear of not knowing what's going to happen. Fear of the unknown is a really big aspect of that. And so, being able to surrender to that and just kind of reframing, I guess, the unknown as something bad, and making it to something, well, excuse me, there's the quote from Martin Luther King, take the first step. You don't have to see the whole staircase, just have to take the first step. And that's kind of reminded me of that when you were saying just showing up, seeing what's going to happen, sitting down and just trusting something, just trusting it's all going to be okay, as opposed to doing all of that deep in that fear and then not being open to anything that's going to happen. So
a couple of things coming up as you're speaking about familiarity and how we are, you know, we are our bodies, again, with the fear and the danger, we're looking for familiar cues that we can trust, like, oh, I've been here before, I know this is a safe place, or I've been with this person before, oh, this has felt safe before. So we're looking for that familiarity, but familiarity is not always what's best for us. Sometimes familiarity can be actually dangerous on the flip side, you know. And so that's interesting. I was just, as you were speaking, I was thinking, oh, you know, it's this familiarity or comfort that quite rightly we're kind of drawn towards, but then also may have the potential for us not to move out of. And that's when we get stagnant or frustrated, or we don't go after what we really truly desire and fulfill, you know, and feel more fulfilled and more joy and more expansive. And it reminded me of something that you said, like in a few conversations back. And it was so beautiful the way you framed it. It's like reframing, and I'm probably not gonna quote it right, so you can
I probably don't remember what I said, don't I? Did I say that?
You definitely said it.
Okay.
It was about reframing the unknown from scary or something to a beautiful, or for the potential to paint a picture or something. There was something really poetic that you said.
I mean, I can't remember exactly what I said, but definitely in terms of what I was trying to convey was we can see the unknown as a blank canvas. So rather than it being something which is full of fear because it's unknown and we need to control the next step, but as you said, in that surrender, we can also start to imagine or dream or visualize or script something the way we want it to be, understanding that we are also all energetic beings, rather than sending that energy ahead of the fear and the worry and the problems and what if it goes wrong, and then it kind of ends up going skew with. we can project a whole different energy out there of, okay, well, what do I do want? What if it goes right? What if everything goes well? What if they really do like me? And it's a whole different energy you can bring into the unknown. It's there for you to, it's a space for you to start creating what you want, as opposed to basing all your fears on the past and bringing that past into the now, and then the now into the future. And that's the, I guess, the whole reframing, turning the scary into the, I don't know what I said, exhilarating, to the fascinating, or to the amazing. So
to the possibilities. I'm kind of hearing as speaking, like the infinite possibilities that are in the unknown, and shaping something rather than reacting to something that you might be holding on to that don't need to anymore. So
it's something that Dr. Joe talks about, Dr. Joe Dispenza. You know, when we're worrying or anxious about something, we're taking one possibility out of an infinite number of possibilities, and we're focused on that with all of our energy, our visualization, the bodily reactions that are happening, all of that energy going into the one thing we don't want to happen. And then instead we can choose another possibility and then move into that and visualize that and feel that. And then that's really what creates the next moment, in a way. So I love that.
There is that phrase, I'm probably not getting it right either, but something like energy goes where, or intent, correct,
energy goes where you focus, that one.
Something like energy goes where, or energy flows where intention goes. So really what we pay attention to and what we send our energy or put our energy into ultimately is what starts to unfold for us. And we're getting into manifestation territory, but that's the essence of it. Like if we're focused on something that we want to move towards, that we desire, then our energy is moving towards that also.
Definitely. Wonderful. Thank you. So in terms of, we've touched on quite a few things we can kind of look at to move through fear and come out the other side. So what sort of tools are your kind of go-to tools, or the tools you share with when you're being of service to the women you work with? Do you want to share some of those tools that maybe help in the moment? We'll look at sort of building resilience after, but just in terms of sharing what you feel we can kind of will help us in the moment, or recapping or summarizing on.
So one I've already said, I think, which is accepting that fear has come up and not bypassing it, denying it, you know, and finding places where it's safe to do that. So whether that's with working with someone or in groups where you've built some trust, then that would be my kind of go-to thing. A tool that we use in somatics and embodiment is a tool it's called orienting. And so that's, you can orient in many ways, but we take most of the information through our eyes. So a good first way to try it is to orient with your eyes. And so that would be becoming present to your body. So noticing what you're sitting on, maybe noticing your feet on the floor, and noticing that connection of your body between what you're sitting on the floor, and then so coming into presence and some breath. So noticing the movement of your breath, And then letting your eyes, letting your gaze just move around your room. So it might, you know, it's nothing fancy. It's just looking around the room and letting your eyes take in your surroundings all the way around. And you might notice things that are pleasing or things that your eyes want to rest on. And then as you notice that, then you might move on to the next thing. But allowing the eyes to move and the body to follow. And what you're doing in that is allowing your nervous system to just get a sense of the space that you're in. And to sense for those cues of safety. And that helps shift the nervous system into this rest and restore part of our nervous system. And that can, for some people, that can be quite settling and calming and just bring us back into a place of balance again and self-regulation. So that's a very simple way of kind of coming back home, if you like. And that might work for some people more effectively, and for others it might not. But you do the same by orienting with sound. So you could just tune into the sounds that are maybe furthest away and notice that you can also hear sounds that are close by. And maybe notice your breath and maybe the beat of your heart. And so I would say anything that kind of brings you into a slower pace, brings you into like some presence of where your body is, how your body is organized, where it's sitting, is going to calm any fear that may come up.
Yeah, because you're basically in that you're taking yourself out of your head and the overthinking and into, as you said, your body, your environment, and I like the self-regulation. That's kind of what you're doing. You're slowing down the breath. If you're kind of stressed and in fear, it's a shallow, faster breath. So you're already starting to not trick your mind, but it is that you're tricking your mind into thinking, well, I'm safe, I'm okay. But you're starting to move away from the spiraling thoughts and out there into that environment and taking your time. And I like the eye movements, which is a big thing now in terms of trauma release. Just kind of, again, slowly perusing, just telling yourself you're safe, because you would only do that if you were feeling safe. So you're taking the action before the emotion has come in, but that action starts to create that calm state in your body, bringing your body back into homeostasis and balance. I love it.
Yeah, and I would say I do that in the morning before I get out of bed. Like as I'm waking, I give myself a moment to wake up. So often we as the alarm goes off, we jump up, we get out, and we haven't oriented to our space. And so before I get out of bed, and I saw Resma Menakem talk about this, he said this, and so I just do some orienting just before I get out and say, okay, here I am in my bedroom, I'm awake, thank you, and just have a little moment. And then I feel like that just gets my day, I'm settled then as I move into my day, rather than jumping up, grabbing my phone maybe,
Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah. I think there's also scope to, where we talked before about the kind of sitting with what's coming up, that kind of acceptance and sitting with it, but also you start to become, because that whole practice is a very mindful practice that we've just described. And I think when you also become mindful about what you're thinking, it goes into, am I generalizing here? Am I catastrophizing this situation? nobody likes me, no one's going to like my speech, everybody's going to think I'm rubbish, da, da, da. And so looking out for little words, trigger words like that, and just slightly soothing that and challenging that, and looking at the truth of that. Is that true? That nobody likes you? Is it true that no one's going to like you? Is it true that everyone's going to hate your speech? Is it true? Just kind of doing that mental thing too. But I like that sometimes you just want to even move away from that thought and just get yourself into the environment where you don't need to think or judge anything you're looking at. And then you can come back to, okay, if I'm still thinking this thing that's causing this reaction in my body and causing this fear, let's just start to soothe that and just start to discern what's truth about this. What is actually true around what I'm thinking in this moment. So there's that step as well, which is quite nice in the moment to start to do. Which again just starts to placate your subconscious and that whole big reaction, and your subconscious can put that program back. So, excuse me.
And I think within that, noticing, what do I need in this moment? Because fears come up because there's a need here. So bringing that inquiry in, that curiosity. You've popped up again. Why? Why? What's happening? Why are you here now? That self-inquiry, so powerful.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And I guess we've touched on what we can do to build resilience. You've mentioned that daily you do that whole sort of looking around and checking your environment. You do that on a daily basis. I love meditation, so that's what I do in my Reiki as well. That helps build my resilience. That helps me deal with those fearful moments or things I'm interpreting as fear, and giving me space to be inquisitive about it, because sometimes we do need that space. So doing something you can do on a daily basis just kind of resets your kind of set point. And you just find you do start to move into a more accepting way of being. You have that expansive new idea or new perception about that event, whether it's a previous event or an upcoming event. And it also gives you a chance to practice what I've sort of mentioned briefly earlier, maybe visualizing it differently, visualizing it the way you want it to go if it's a fearful moment. So all of these things kind of help to build resilience. So when we do come across that moment, you may still have nerves. As we said, you probably never eradicate it completely for that situation, but you're able to move through it in a more elevated way, get the best out of it, really appreciate it, as opposed to rush through it because you just want to get it done. But yes, that takes time, I think, to build, the courage, I guess, to keep building that courage up. Talked about
that courage. I love what you said. I've started to reframe resilience as capacity. It's a small reframe, but it's like, how are we filling our cup? How are we filling our capacity so that when these feelings, which are completely natural, rise up, how much capacity do we have to be with them and to hold them so that they don't choose for us. We can still be choiceful in those moments. And meditation, I agree. That is like a meditation. I think my teachers is like putting, you're just putting in a bit every day. Just a little bit every day, and kind of filling up every day, because it's a cumulative meditation. So introducing the little daily practices, I would say, it really starts to add up. It's cumulative. It starts to build that capacity little by little.
I think it's good, because we have to remember the output of fear, the physical damage it can cause to our body if we are constantly in that state of fear, or for a long period of time, or the majority of the time, we're feeling this fear about what people might think, what they're going to say. I'm doing this is new, or fear of new situations, or heights, or crowded spaces. All of these things, if we're constantly on that fearful spectrum, eventually that will cause problems in our body, because we are releasing hormones and chemicals that are designed for action and explosive behavior, so it can be used and expelled, and we're holding it in. We're not actually doing that because a lot of the fear is up here. So that daily work is important. And as you mentioned as well, having an output for this, if there's some deeper underlying trauma that's at the bottom of it all, being able to talk to someone else gets it up and out of your body, allows you, we mentioned earlier when we were talking offline, allows us to be more conscious of what it is that's kind of at the bottom of it all. And even seeing it for the first time, hearing ourselves say it for the first time, is in itself healing, and starts to calm that fear and bring some rationale in around it. And then we realize perhaps we can just, it's us holding it there, and we can maybe let it go. So it is important, if you are constantly in this fearful state, or regularly in this fearful state, and perhaps there's no impending danger, as we said, no impending harm to you, and it's a mental state, then you do need to think about how we can reduce that, so that you can have a healthy body, but also live a healthier, happier life, and take advantage of those possibilities as well that we've sort of talked about.
Yeah, I love that you brought that in. Thanks, Gwen. That feels, it's a really important point, because we are talking about biology, physiology, and there are biological impacts of being in fear, being in stressful state, chronic stressful state. So it's there's proof, there's scientific studies and lots of information now that we have around the connection between stressful, fearful states, activated states, and how our body responds, and where conditions come from, especially immune system things and digestive system, as you said, moving the body's physically, biologically moving blood flow away, and away from our digestive system, away from our muscles, things like, or into our muscles, I should say. And so we're moving away from vital organs. And if we're in that state very frequently or for a long time, that our body is going to be impacted by that. Our body's not built to sustain that for long periods of time. So there is this is not just emotional, this is not just mental, this is also physical too. And I'm really glad that you kind of brought that in right now, as we're kind of tying up, because I think it's an important message for people.
I think so. So yeah, I guess just to summarize, we're saying fear is a natural thing. A lot of the time it means it's being triggered in a different way to how it was originally intended, but that way is still useful, because we can get a lot of information out of it, and we can still kind of, I guess it still allows us to stretch ourselves, to overcome certain things, to find that courage, and not let it sort of hold us back. But there can be information in it that we need to be aware of, even if it's looking deeper at ourselves as to where it's all coming from. And then the tools we shared in terms of helping us move through that. I love your orientation piece, looking around you, getting really in your body and what you're sitting on, what you're feeling. We talked about also soothing some of the thoughts that we get that are creating this fearful state where we're catastrophizing things, where we're generalizing things, the everybody always, this always happens to me. And just looking at the truth of that to soothe it a little bit is obviously really important as well. The acceptance, forgot to mention that, the thing right at the beginning is important. So we're not making it wrong to feel these things. And also finding someone to talk to so you can get it up and out of your body. And then doing something on a regular daily basis to start to build your resilience to stress, I guess, is the other thing. So that fear doesn't just debilitate you.
Yeah.
So fabulous conversation.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Oh, beautiful summary.
Thank
yeah,
you for on there. It's just amazing. Thank you so much for that, Jae. It's really interesting just to explore these things and see where they come from. And the theme of acceptance does run through all of it. But there's also this kind of, okay, but what can we do next, which I love. Definitely love these conversations. So just to kind of finish up, Jae and I are planning a really beautiful day together that we're inviting everyone else to. We're just firming up some details, but we know that we're going to be just holding space for everyone in the form of a women's circle, calling it the Circle of Love, inviting some women down to the Tara Center on the 28th of October. We're going to be there all day, just holding space and guiding people through a really heart-opening experience where you'll be able to kind of connect a little bit more deeply with yourselves, with other women as well who are like-minded and spiritual. And we're going to be weaving in some Reiki, some beautiful sound healing, some African spirituality as well coming in there. We're going to be holding space for each other in a really powerful way. So look out for more information there. If you subscribe, you'll hear some more if you subscribe to the channel. And also if you are, you might want to visit my website, myspiritualbutterfly.com. And then Jae's website is, let's say, Jae.
At the moment, it's the lighttree.co.uk, but it'll be transitioning at some point to our living tree. So for now, and we'll update you. I'll keep you updated.
We'll keep you updated. We'll keep you updated. But so hopefully everybody, you've enjoyed our little sort of conversation today. Hopefully there's some things that resonated with you. You've got some things you can try and do and explore. I think that's the key word. Just get curious about what you're feeling and start from there. That's the start of that courage. If you enjoyed this conversation, then do like, subscribe to see more, to be notified. Hit that bell when we do sort of the next one next month. We will be doing this once a month in conversation. And it's just lovely. You can have us on in the background as you're doing your housework and just kind of just get some insights. Do comment down below as well on your experience of fear, the things that you experience around fear, the things that you're fearful of, I should say, and how you've maybe moved through those things, or if you're still struggling with those things. Do comment down below. I always reply to the comments. But thank you so much, Jae. It's been absolutely wonderful to kind of have this evening with you as usual. I look forward to next month as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you everyone for watching. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.